Welcome to the Investor Thanksgiving special with Charlie and Wallstreet.G. How you doing today, Wallstreet.G?
Dude, really well, really, really well. Let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy it. How about you?
I'm fantastic. So it's been a tough year for a lot of folks, but it's Thanksgiving, so it's a time to be thankful for the things we have in life. So what are some things that people should be thankful for in the stock market these days?
One of the things I've been seeing, it may not stay this way, but dividend yields for some of these companies are ridiculous. So, for example, Enbridge, I saw the last I checked, it was like 8.6% dividend yield. That doesn't mean they're going to keep it that way forever. But as for like a passive income investment, if you're telling me you can bank in an 8.6% yield on an annualized basis, that's no joke at all. You know what I mean? Just for holding the stock. And so I've seen a lot of those opportunities because for some sectors, valuations are still pretty low. Dividend yields have gone way up. So yeah, I would say that's something that keeps on giving. That's something that keeps on giving.
For sure. We love that passive income coming in. So, one thing that everyone seems to be thankful for these days is progress towards a vaccine. News has been good coming out about a vaccine. How have different sectors of the market reacted to this good news?
Okay, good question. I mean, on a global basis, the markets have been doing very well. And the investor crunch that just came out on the Friday of November like 13th, that one talked about how the global market value actually reached $95 trillion for the first time.
That's
So,
incredible.
yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. So, as a whole, most things are doing very well. Now, I've also seen some people argue that, yeah, we may be seeing some short-term positive effects in the market, but it could also be seen as very bearish in the sense that if you take the idea of we may be in a mania right now as true, maybe we're in a bubble right now. If you take that as true, then as a vaccine comes out, reality is going to start kicking in, right? So maybe it'll actually cause people to realize, hey, we're actually in a little bit more, we're in a worse situation than previously thought, and valuations may recalibrate to the downside. You know what I mean?
For sure. So, one of my favorite parts about Thanksgiving every year is watching football. And one thing I like to do when I watch football games, and is now legal in a lot of US states, is to bet on those games. How have sports betting and daily fantasy stocks fared this year with so many more states legalizing betting? And what's their outlook for the future?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I personally, I'm not a huge better on sports. This year, I mean, rest in peace, Kobe. I'm a huge Kobe fan. The Lakers won this year, which I thought was just absolutely beautiful of a story. You know what I mean? They did it for Kobe. Maybe I should have put my money where my mouth is. I was definitely. I mean, hey, I'm in Canada. I'm from Toronto, so until Toronto was out, I was of course, going for. We wanted a number two championship. I was excited for Toronto, but once they were out, I was all Kobe, all Lakers. So that's great. But at the end of the day, it depends on who you are. It depends on who's doing the betting and what you're betting on. So it's really hard to say how, in general, everybody will do. But if you're making the right bets, if you know what you're talking about, then hey, I've definitely seen some people do very well. A question to you I have as someone who does bet in sports, what have you been betting on recently?
So I've been betting on a lot of things. I'm liking my Packers going into the playoffs this season. Hope they
Cool.
started the season really well, and Rodgers hopefully can turn it back on to his early season form. But I know my friends have been really into daily fantasy, and DraftKings has been making a lot of noise, and their market share is really growing. So it'll be interesting to watch as more Americans get into sports betting. I know more states are legalizing it, and it seems to be one of those things that might be legalized pretty much nationally quite soon. So that'll be something to
Interesting,
watch in the
interesting,
market.
interesting, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That those will be some interesting developments. I'm curious to see how people do with that.
For sure. And so another thing that everyone thinks about on Thanksgiving is obviously the day after and Black Friday shopping. But that's obviously going to look a little bit different this year, right, with COVID. So how is the holiday season as a whole looking different going to impact the stock market?
That's a fair question. Yeah. So with Black Friday coming up, the question is, are people really going to be spending less, or do they have the same amount of money and they're actually itching, to get to spend on retail? I did read yesterday, I believe, that there is like 79.5 million Americans right now are having trouble paying for their usual daily expenses, right? So there are some people having trouble paying for like their water bills and utility bills. So with that being said, if that's actually the case, um, maybe people don't have the money to spend just as much, and that will definitely affect these businesses. To what extent? Hard to say, but here at 79.5 billion people, like, where they're having trouble, it doesn't look like Christmas is going to be as jolly as it usually is. You know what I mean?
For sure. So what companies might be winners and losers in this different looking holiday season?
I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking, as always, Amazon. You know what I mean? Amazon are one of the people that will, of course, be one of the big winners out of all this.
It seems
Uh,
like every situation that comes up, Amazon ends up being the winner and someone else ends up being the loser.
It's yes, of course, and that's here. Like Trump back in I don't know, a couple of years ago, I remember him even kind of going at Amazon, calling them a monopoly of sorts. You know what I mean? Which is an interesting conversation in itself. But you can pretty much do all of your Christmas shopping on Amazon. Like, you know what I mean? You can get absolutely everything. So that actually may affect these smaller businesses in a pretty horrific way if everybody's just doing their shopping at Amazon. I've also heard a lot of people say this: physical stores these days are actually just showrooms. It's like you go to the physical store, you go look at what you're trying to buy, and then you go home and you order it online. So, with that being said, with this corona pandemic, people are already naturally moving towards shopping online. Now they have an extra incentive. So, of course, these online based e commerce companies, they're going to have the most upside here because they're in the right place at the right time.
And it will also be interesting to watch which stores that have been traditionally more focused on physical stores transition better to online, because those will obviously be the winners with, maintaining a big name brand with their physical store, but able to maintain their online presence. So my last question for you today, Wall Street G, is what are you thankful for in the stock market these days and in life?
Okay, that's yeah, two different questions. As for the stock market, I'm thankful. Hmm. I'm thankful for the fact that there's a market to play in. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's such an intellectual battle. It never ends. There's always it's life in itself in the sense that you're always adapting. There's always something new going on. The change is constant. And that's what makes it such an exciting game. Just like life itself. So if we go into the question, what am I thankful for in life? It sounds very corny and nonsense, but I'm very thankful to be alive right now. It's a really, really crazy time. And I know we're going to be looking back in the history books and being like, 2020 was one of those years, you know? And, it's very unfortunate. A lot of people have unfortunately passed away from the coronavirus pandemic. And that's not something to take lightly by any means. So rest in peace to them, and my condolences to anybody dealing with that and their family. But what I will say is that it could be worse. You got to put things into perspective always. Imagine having the same situation with a virus that has a fatality rate that's way higher than this, and everybody knows somebody who's dying from this. Like, that would be such a different situation, and that's how serious this pandemic is. The risks of that. So I'm thankful I'm healthy. I'm thankful we're doing well. Personally, I don't have anybody too close for me, fortunately, that have been affected by this, but I know it's affected the lives of many. So hopefully they can find something to be thankful for still. It's a tough time.
Yep. And we're thankful to all the investor users and listeners out there. And we want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, guys.